All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. How we feeling today? Great. Awesome. Welcome to MNN. Whose first time is it here? Woo, I love it. Awesome. Well, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Tiffany Blount. I am the manager of media education here at MNN, and this is my favorite day of the year. If you are not sure why you are here today, this is our culminating event for our documentary storytelling intensive. What basically happens with this intensive is that I drive these folks crazy for 12 very, very short weeks. So this is MNN's only filmmaking class where we have them produce, write, shoot, and edit their own independent short film. These stories are their stories, their hard-earned work, and so we're here tonight to celebrate that. Following the screening of all of these films, we are going to have a panel discussion. I will lead some of those questions. If you have some questions, you're more than welcome to raise your hand and ask them. And I also want to let you know that for the first time ever, we are live streaming this event. Right. So for anybody watching us on the live stream, if you would like to ask a question, please put that in the comments and we would love to answer it. So I do want to let you all know, if you have not been involved with MNN, definitely visit our website, mnn.org, to learn more about how you can become involved. If you think you might want to take this documentary intensive, I can happily announce that next week we will be opening up applications for this. And I would say midweek, but if you have questions, if you are not sure what it entails, or if it's something you should be a part of, email me directly at education@mnn.org. All right, so I'm really, really pleased. I am just overwhelmed, as always, by the hard work that everyone puts into this. And I just want to make sure you all really understand the work they put in and celebrate that work and really appreciate the work that they did. So we are going to get going and start with the film. Should be about an hour. You all have a pamphlet in front of you, so these are in order of what's listed on the pamphlet. So if you're wondering whose film is what and what's up next. So we're going to get going. Thank you very much.
I said it wasn't going to become a habit, it did. I said it wasn't going to become my life, and it did. When the sport was young and new, everyone knew each other. There was love, there was welcoming, because you were just in sport. It didn't matter who you were, where you were, how old you were in the sport. That part of the sport, as it's grown, is not as personal as it was then. That thing that we were all doing something new and exciting and all of us were together, that camaraderie is not there anymore. But the love for the sport and how people stay in the sport for such a long time because they love it, that's still there. My brother asked me one day, he said, "Would you like to come to Real Gym?" I said, "Real Gym?" And he says, "Yeah, come on." So I went with him to a gym in Brooklyn. After, going to the gym a couple times with my brother and people looking at me and thought that I had the ability to be in the sport and asked me if I wanted to be in a bodybuilding show. Well, my answer was, what is a bodybuilding show? I have no idea, I've never seen one. Well, lo and behold, I won. I'm like, oh, this was easy. And that was the hook, I did it. I won. They gave me a trophy with the lady that was in the cap and gown. They didn't even have bodybuilding trophies. They gave me a graduation trophy. And that was the beginning of me becoming a bodybuilder. I'm a mesomorph. I'm short and muscular. I am a mesomorph, so that's easy to develop muscle and strength. So that's a plus for me. And I said the other plus was that I had been athletic, even though it was a different sport. So there was still good muscle tone and strength. So that was a good thing for me. Each category has its own definitive descriptions of what they want you to do. If you're a bodybuilder, they're looking for muscularity, you're looking for definition, they're looking for fullness. If you're in bikini, they're not looking for you to be bulky, they're looking for you to be lean, sleek, and sort of like sexy, boobs and bust, Being a female bodybuilder, black female, but it wasn't a problem to me specifically. And as far as the sport at that time, it really wasn't problematic in the sport, or if it was, it didn't affect me. The difference for me was the fact that I was 40 years old. That was unheard of. I didn't think it was any big deal. I came from a family that were very active, a pretty well lifespan, so being 40 and being involved in sports wasn't strange to me. However, it was strange to a lot of other people. And the fact that I stayed in the sport, became very competitive, became a local champion, national champion, and turned into being a pro bodybuilder was absolutely amazing. Ivy Wood was my mother, and she ran track and field for the New York AAU club. And she ran the 60, the 100, and the relay also. And her record stood until I was in high school. And it was always a treat, because when anytime I ran, my mother come to see me run, and it was wonderful. Now, ask me if she ever saw me in bodybuilding contest. Absolutely is no. She thought I would eventually get over being a bodybuilder. I never did. I think with me, I knew I was never, and I may have said this before, going to be an Olympia competitor, but I knew I could be competitive. As I grew older, and as I said, I started competing at 40, and now I'm 50, now I'm 60, now it's come to a point in time where it's time to hang up the trunks. Let's be honest, it's time to hang them up. So I did. I retired, I think I was 65 when I retired from work. And what I did was made my hobby my retirement career. People ask me, what do you do? I said, I'm a bodybuilder. I'm 76 years old, but I'm still a bodybuilder. Winning always is not that you got first place. Winning is, did you accomplish what you were supposed to do?
Humans were indigenous to a lot of places where they didn't destroy the ecosystems and lived in balance. So can I live in such a manner that I am indigenous to this place, that I'm behaving in that way? I grew up in a rural environment in Idaho, the Rocky Mountains. I enjoyed growing up wild in the country. I guess I took it for granted, and so thought that it was boring and mundane, and so I came to the city like a lot of people. I learned after, it took me about 25 years, that it wasn't all that. So right now I'm farming and growing food for Ghana's, which is an intentional community that's been around for about 30 years in Staten Island. It's not a huge garden, but we can get quite a bit of output out of this. A lot of different herbs and annuals. A greenhouse built on the side of the house, south facing. So there's usually room for food in the landscape almost anywhere. Here I'm planting a squash, some more here. We're hoping they're going to trail down, and everybody can do it. A lot of people are identifying with regenerative culture now, comparing to what we've done up to now, which is degenerative. You know, degenerative agriculture, degenerative economics. We have extracted all the real wealth of our ecosystems, of our rivers, of our forests, and extracted it, turned it into fake financial wealth. If we're going to survive this predicament, how we do food is central. Right now we're doing food in such a way that we're completely out of balance with the carbon cycle. The military and agriculture are the two biggest greenhouse gas emitters, and we have to stop that. The simplest and really the only tool I think in the toolbox, that's why I dedicated my life to it, regenerative farming. Put the carbon back in the soil where most of it came from. I mean, I chose going into farming kind of as an activist because I felt like it was a place to organize, to do good deeds and sequester carbon and change things. I mean, whatever small amount I can help change being responsible for producing as much of your food as you can, as close as you can, is a responsibility we all have. Veganis, with their landscape, so it's trying to get as much production as we can. Also putting in perennials that we can share with other gardens and other communities and other neighbors. Regenerative culture and regenerative economics have some other kind of metrics. It's not money in, money out, but it's carbon sequestered in the soil, ecosystems rebuilt and enhanced. So when people say everything has to change, we have to start imagining what that looks like when everything changes. So getting food everywhere we can, starting here in a supportive community, then that's something.
I've been living in New York for many years. I came here when I was 20 years old, and I began as an apprentice for Halston, very famous fashion designer. And once I had his name on my resume, I was able to get other better jobs and eventually start my own very own company. Being a cruelty-free fashion designer, you have to absolutely make sure that there are no animal products in anything that you use. There's a little bit of detective work. So many fabrics now are synthetic and they don't involve any cruelty at all. But you know, it's important to become aware of the process. So kind of find out where those fabrications were made, what goes into them, just a little bit of things that surround the making of that fabrication, because you want to make sure that what you're using is sustainable and that it is cruelty-free. What is my process for creating a beautiful cruelty-free collection? You have to have a starting point. So either it's the sketch, which becomes the idea, which becomes the finished product, or it's the fabric that inspires you to create something that you don't need to sketch because you have it in your mind already. So you take it and in a sculptural way, you drape it and it forms to create this beautiful dress. I love animals so much because I grew up with animals in Africa, being very close to wild animals and seeing how they live, also seeing the way that people hunted them, which was devastating to me.
Thank you all for attending today's hearing on Intro 1476A, which bans the sale of fur apparel in New York City.
Thank you for letting me speak here today. My name is Mark Bauer. I am a New York fashion designer. I have a successful business here in New York City. We do not sell or design anything using real fur. I am fortunate to dress some very famous women like Angelina Jolie, Beyonce, Oprah, Shania Twain, Mariah Carey, Emily Blunt, and Tyra Banks, just to name a few. Many who seek out fur-like alternatives, I'm only too happy to show them. We New Yorkers do not hunt animals for food. We New Yorkers do not live in caves. There is no good reason for us to wear real fur on our bodies to keep us warm. Technology has given us incredible faux fur if we so choose to wear fur. Animals that are bred on fur farms specifically for their skins live in horrific cage conditions. They are anally electrocuted, causing unimaginable suffering. So I'm asking you, New Yorkers, please care. We New Yorkers are the heroes of compassion and change. Please, New York, be the heroes for these suffering animals and ban the sale of fur in New York. Real fur belongs on the animal's body, not on ours. Thank you.
When I come here, I forget what time it is. And sometimes people will come looking for me and say, "Oh, you were supposed to be somewhere." I've gardened most of my life. When I was 5 years old, our kindergarten teacher had a school garden. We would go in the mornings and garden. My dad had a big vegetable garden, and I helped him with that. When he passed away, I didn't have a garden to work in anymore. I miss gardening. It's an amazing experience to be in the middle of the city and you're like in the dirt, digging in the dirt and planting things, and it feels almost like revolutionary. It's overwhelming to me how fast things move. I need to live a slower paced life, and that sometimes seems incompatible with city life, and yet I get so much out of the city, all the things that are going on in the city, and I love being in the middle of it, but at the same time I need to be able to retreat from it. I feel like I've been able to bring my work into the garden because I make pottery, and sometimes pieces don't work out, and when they don't work out, I smash them. And I did a project here where I and other garden members made stepping stones. I had just joined the garden. The next week I heard that NYU had this big expansion plan which would include this piece of land. They're building a very large building on Mercer Street. If they do start on the second building, they have said that they would like to use our garden as a site to stage their construction equipment. People come in and they thank me, they thank all of us for providing this wonderful garden and taking care of it. People in the neighborhood have come to rely on it, use this as a park. All of our garden members see it as our responsibility to maintain this and make it a wonderful resource for the entire community.
They're very thirsty, I'm sure. Oh, yeah, you just drop them in.
It's important for me to be able to be in nature in the city. I have found that gardening is a way for me to feel okay with the world. When we feel threatened by development, we feel that if this space is closed and it's built on, we would really be losing something very valuable. I don't have a country house. I don't have a backyard. I have this garden. This for me is my country house. It's my backyard, and it's important. It's very important, and this is what keeps me sane in the city.
Just notice how this vibration of peace becomes part of each and every cell.
Well, I never expected that it would be something I would be interested in until something quite traumatic happened in my life. My husband of 19 years had a heart attack and he never survived. And from that moment on, everything just went crazy. I was fortunate, I had a really good job. I worked a gazillion hours a day, a gazillion hours a week. But at one point I knew I needed something more. I'm Lois Kramer Perez, and I feng shui your space and your soul. Literally, feng shui means wind and water. So the Wind is the energy that we can't see, but we know that it's there. The water is the energy that represents the physical things in our space. And by exploring different methods of energy work, meditation, thought process, I found my entire inner working started to shift. And that is what I love to share the most. So when I share that shui, I'm feng shuiing your soul. I don't have just one role model. I find that I am drawn to mentors and people that are what I perceive to already be in a place that I aspire to be. So maybe it's Deepak Chopra, maybe it's Oprah Winfrey, maybe it's one of my teachers, maybe it's one of my business coaches. It could even be you, because on any given day, there is somebody that is showing some light that I'm attracted to, that I just admire, and they help me light the way.
Bringing in the light, exhaling the dark.
I like to think of the vibration of peace. If you notice, the news and the media are always focusing on when people gather together and they're angry and there's a riot and there's an uproar. Well, the same way that we are connected by standing in a crowd where people begin getting angry, they begin getting emotional, that's triggering a feeling we may have felt at one point in our life. And as that opens up, we're all getting swept away.
Allow the external to only strengthen the power of peace.
What I find bring people to my meditations most is they're looking for a way to find a sense of relaxation, a sense of peace.
Allowing the self-love to find its way even better, even more beautiful, even more than the moment before.
The crystals and the altar set the tone for what we will be experiencing in our meditation circle. So I always choose a center stone, which is a form of quartz. Quartz moves the energy. I have selenite, which is a energy clearing to clear the room. The black tourmaline is also a clearing energy. And then the small little quartz points are also helping to move the energy. I have chosen these beautiful aquamarine as my theme for this month. And the aquamarine connects to our expression, our ability to express ourselves, our throat chakra, also connected with our heart to speak through heartfelt words. People are finding they are so overloaded between electronics, having to do things quicker, all the people, all the things happening around them that they have no control. They're looking for a way to take back control of how they can experience life on a daily basis.
Emotional healing begins the physical.
And the reason I do my work, what my goal is, to be a catalyst for change, to inspire you to seek and create new possibilities in your life.
And with this next cleansing breath, when you're ready, open your eyes.
There once was a king squirrel who lived in the largest, most bountiful tree in the forest.
Crocodile showed up each week, but Tiger often canceled at the last minute.
Oh my, said the rabbit. What will we do?
The person who originally spearheaded this project, his name is Mark Nowak. He has actually a school called the Worker Writers School. I was invited by Mark to do this.
So the format of the workshopping is very strict. The writer will read their fable,
And so what you want to do is you want to give feedback on three things. One is something that you loved in the fable. Two is something that you really liked. Three is something that either confused you or you thought could be improved upon. Beautiful.
I like the idea of the hedgehog discovering things for the first time. So because
one of the ways I think of this class, it is a place for people whose work is to care for others to come and unapologetically engage in a selfish, creative act. Particularly for women, I think we are sort of socialized to think that our priority is to care for others. Occasionally, I think we have to, not occasionally, I think, to practice it as much as we can, give ourselves permission to step away from that role of care for others and to indulge ourselves in our own minds. And it doesn't have to be writing, it can be painting, it can be ceramics, whatever it is. It's something that I think is spiritually necessary, most especially if you're caring for others.
The cat explained, all these years, it was I that was wasting time. I laughed at you. I teach this class for a lot of different reasons. It gave me this community of women that came together once a week to read stories that they'd written and to share them, and this generated incredible conversations about life, about experience, about immigration, about motherhood, about work, about care. The very first workshop, it was in 2016, the year of the election. And I remember the Tuesday of the election, everyone said, all right, everyone, see you next week. We're going to have it. And you president, I don't think anyone was expecting the result. This class became for me a place where I came to affirm life. At the very heart of it, it's just this very simple idea that writing belongs to everyone. It doesn't belong to college-educated intellectuals or whatever. It belongs to everybody. Writing doesn't have to always be with a capital W.
Being indoors was an odd thing for most of humanity's history. We only lately invented houses and only lately realized we could maybe spend some time in a cave out of the cold and the snow, but mostly people spend most of their time outdoors. So it's in our DNA. I grew up in New York City, and so I was always in the streets and in a playground and riding my bicycle, swimming, just, doing kids games, that kind of thing when I was younger, roller skating, broke my arm roller skating. But as I got older, I never really liked team sports, and in school, there was always the pressure to be part of some kind of sport, like volleyball or baseball or something like that. And I was never one of those people. I hated gym, but I loved dance. So I started to do more dance type exercises, and I didn't even think about it as exercise. It was just something I loved because I love music, I love movement. I originally moved here because I loved the park. I remember sitting on one of the park benches and thinking, oh my God, this sunset is amazing. I could live here and this could be my backyard. So the reason I'm actually in Manhattan and in this part of the world is because of this park. I got seduced by being outside, and I thought, well, I can do my exercises outside. And I decided to become a personal trainer, and then I decided to become a group exercise leader and start classes. So I wasn't just doing it on my own, walking around on my own, doing some stretches. I thought I can engage other people, and this fits in with my public health, so it all kind of made sense that this was a way for people to be physically active without going to a gym, because a gym is expensive. There weren't that many gyms in the neighborhood at the time. There are more now, but there really weren't that many choices. The type of exercises I'm doing, they're all body weight exercises, which means yoga stretches, things like push-ups, squats. We don't use any equipment. The only equipment we use is what we find in the park. So steps, benches, walls, railings. We're now in a playground. I also use the playground equipment when the kids aren't using it. I pick up people all the time, so there people will be walking through the park, watching us exercise, and they'll go, what's going on there? And we'll invite them in. Maybe I will, maybe other people in the group will, but we invite them in. And so there's a great advantage to having people see other people do healthy things, because it's hard to change your habits, it's hard to get started. But if you see somebody else is doing it, and that other person kind of looks like you, sounds like you, lives in your neighborhood, is sort of a normal person and not a total jock, then I think it's just more welcoming. It's easier for people to get started. I love being active and I love being outdoors, but honestly, what motivates me the most is knowing that other people are waiting here for me. I have that obligation and I have that responsibility, and also I have that joy of being with people that I've known for years, or maybe I'll meet somebody new. There's always that anticipation and the possibility of having a new experience. Today, I still love dance, and in fact, when people say, "What's your name?" I help them out a little bit and I go, "Nancy, Dancy Nancy." And they remember my name. So I still love to dance, and I kind of think of life as a dance and every day as a dance.
Okay, this was known as Nyafco. They used to treat waste over here, and they were polluting the air, and there was a smell, a stench. There was a mixture of decaying flesh and industrial smell, and it took us many years before we got them out of the Hunts Point Peninsula. Now there's a new structure there, and I believe that close by they have a promoter that throws world-class hip-hop shows. And this is the pier here in Barretto Point Park. And then to the south, you have a beautiful view of the skyline in Manhattan, although it's a cloudy day. I first got involved through my mother, who was on the board of the Longwood Historic District, and I attended a meeting, and then from there I joined the Community Board 2 in the Bronx and got involved in the community, and that led to Lincoln Hospital Community Advisory Board there, and we were involved in a lot of issues in the community, crime. We marched with Curtis Lewa, with Banana Kelly, with the drug problems that we had. We got involved in housing, we got involved in health, and these were bad times. It was abandonment, a lot of buildings, landlords were actually walking away, some were torching them to get insurance money. So these were the negative days of the so-called South Bronx.
That was a ship that went down. There was a disaster, a fire.
Plant that the origins, we don't know where it came, but it's beautiful. It's just something that's so beautiful. The whole park, it's a wonderful place for people to relax, to come, meditate, and get away from the stress of every daily life that, it's nice. There you go. Bridle Point Park was part of a project by the Bronx Borough President, I believe, and the community board was instrumental in pushing for that project. It serves the community in many ways. Families can go there with their kids. They have barbecues, they have community programs there. The Bridle Point Park is really a beautiful place for people to come here, de-stress, meditate, have a nice lunch, come with the families, come alone, a little music. And we have some interesting growth here. I believe that when the water hits these, they're like some kind of plant, it would soak the water in, but I don't know the exact name of the plant. But it's really beautiful. We have a lot of different plants and trees over here. And I hope that the people will use this place and take their belongings and trash with them, because this is a jewel here in the Bronx, a small oasis.
There you go. And see, yeah, and create this triangle. So boom, it goes in your eye, then it comes around and then breaks your collarbone. And I'm like, yeah. And then this is right back across the eyes. He's trying to get away. I got you now. Yeah, so now where are you gonna go? My name is Tom Shikaski. I run an awareness school that also teaches self-defense to women, children, and other communities that are at risk. I played football in college and had brothers growing up, so I was always, roughhousing and whatnot. And when I moved here, a friend of mine introduced me to Aikido, the Japanese art of self-defense. It was the concept of a self-defense, but learning things that were incredibly useful and create a lot of trauma. I've been studying Filipino stick and knife fighting for 9 years, which is learning how to fight multiple attackers and really looking at what are the most vulnerable parts of a human. So the two are actual military style fighting techniques, the true sense of martial in martial art, which is not a sport. It is defending you and your loved ones above all else. As a father, I started being much more aware of everything that was happening. I had decided I am not going to raise a daughter that's totally unaware. And so I started training her. I saw her responses. I started then taking more self-defense classes, and the responses I was getting was one that I was doing something valuable. It became more evident and clear to me that people here in the city didn't really feel like they needed it, yet statistically speaking, it was happening all the time. I have and know so many people that are at risk. They're getting sought out to be beaten up by people that are homophobic or just plain hate in their hearts.
As a gay man, it's not easy for me to just walk down the streets without being looked at or harassed. A lot has to do with our current president igniting all this hatred against a lot of minorities, especially the LGBT community. I don't want to engage in any kind of violence. I just want to get out of there and continue with my life.
Our students learn how to be comfortable with people actually having their hands on them and understanding, wow, they're losing their ability to use those hands right now where I have, A, B, C, and D that I can do.
You don't have to be huge to defend yourself or to defend someone else.
I was in a domestic violence situation, so I was constantly harassed, beaten. I was always abused by this person. I feel more empowered that in case I was to encounter a situation like that, I feel confident that I could just easily get out of that situation.
I haven't had anyone go through the program that have had to use the physical part, which I find that amazing. I've had several people tell me how they've avoided situations.
As Tom tries to teach me to be aware of things around me, I don't feel as vulnerable. You can sit on the train and look around and see how people's body posture is. You can see somebody that's angry, you can see somebody that's stressed out, you can see somebody that's vulnerable.
People have told me their level of awareness was able to allow them to use the evasion techniques to move away from dangerous areas. On the other hand, I've had a couple people here in the city say using the stop technique and very confidently defending their space was enough as well. Unfortunately, too many of the people that are taking my class have had violent things happen to them, and I want to get to them in that preventative stage, middle school, in high school, before young women are going off to college. I also want to teach young men how they can step up and help out and be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
It doesn't matter who we are, what we are, we all deserve love, we all deserve compassion, and we all deserve to be happy. My name is Tina Swani Om Prakash. I'm a blogger, writer, influencer for ownyourcrones.com, which is a blog that I started in the last 1.5 to 2 years with regards to destigmatizing life-saving ostomy surgery, Crohn's disease, inflammatory bowel disease in general, digestive diseases, and just chronic illness, and helping to end ableism in general. So as a patient living with this condition, and with these conditions rather, I can bring forward concerns firsthand, whether it be to doctors or to medical practices or on social media or just to the government via lobbying, to nonprofits, to pharma. I glean, I gather a lot of the opinions of other patients' experiences, my own experiences, and bring them forward to improve medical care.
So the stoma is something that's created by the surgeon. What they do is
they'll bring a portion of your small intestine out. They'll either divert it from your colon, or if your colon's been removed, they'll just bring a portion of your intestine out onto the abdomen, where it's sticking out maybe about an inch or so, sometimes an inch and a half. And so it's protruding about that much. And what you can do is, the stoma's diameter is about this much for me, so I just stick it on around the stoma. What an ostomy bag is what you're seeing right here. This collects stool, it collects waste from your body rather than your rectum holding it or your colon holding it. This is going to be holding it. My father and my aunt both died of colorectal cancer from long-standing Crohn's disease, and they got their ostomies perhaps too late. My father died here in New York City, and my aunt in New Delhi, India, within a few years of each other. And I had that also in the back of my mind that, you know, Tina, if you wait too long, this could be a death sentence. It's not an easy pill to swallow to say, oh, you now need to go to the bathroom a different way. Bowel disease is right up there with, in my country, especially my family's from India, Pakistan, bowel disease is up there with, you know, mental illness, with being sexually assaulted. It's one of those taboos that you just don't talk about. It's something that seems to be a common thread, that you don't get married or that you're not considered marriage material, but in addition to that, you don't really get jobs that easily if people know you have a bowel disease or if they know you have an ostomy. It's almost just an automatic point of discrimination that people face. People can't enter temples or places of worship because they're considered unclean or foul, dirty. A lot of people can't enter the kitchen to cook for the same reasons. If I didn't get the ostomy, my doctors told me I was dying. And, you know, I lost 50 pounds over that time frame, over a 6-month time frame, from 135 pounds to 85 pounds. The hair on my head was graying at the age of 24. I was malnourished. I was being fed by a line in my arm. My doctor's like, if you don't die in the next few weeks from a colon that's killing you, you're going to end up with cancer. I am glad that I went through with it. I think it was definitely the right decision. The reality is that ostomies save people's lives, and it did indeed save my life. So I have no regrets. The only thing I would say is I wish I would have done it sooner. I was able to put the weight back on. I was able to go out again. I was able to eat foods that I couldn't eat for months, if not years. And I felt more like myself than I had been in years. I really wanted to do this because I wanted to change things for people like myself. I wanted to give them a way to bring out their concerns and vent their frustrations. And being a person who looks like certain parts of the world, it helped to do that.
I have every intention of putting Crohn's and colitis on the map for us all.
He's in this tree. Let me see if I can bring him back. There, he's back, he's back, he's back. Yeah, 10 o'clock in this tree. Ah! Stand out here. It's all a game of angles. You stand under there, you're looking right up at the butt of the bird. It's bay-breasted warbler. It's in the middle of the tree going to the right. It's over here. Wait till he's there. He's facing us now. About 10 feet from the top, hopping along. Yeah, 10 feet just to the right of center. There, he's moving to the right. There, that's him right there. All the way at the far right. All the way at the far right. Far right. Up here. Yeah, not the bird that's in the open, but up above it. All right. Yeah. What's happening in front of us is real life, and it happens as it happens. And I don't try to change it too much, except to bring the birds closer. You know, I can't edit it. It is what it is, and that's nice. You're given all the scripted things that are in the society, all the prepackaged things. All the bad jokes that you get from me in a day are not prepackaged. They're not rehearsed in previously. It's just being in the moment, enjoying the nice people on the walk, and affirming life. Alright, so today we had some migration overnight, so we'll see some phoebes along the way. Deborah tells me there's one pine warbler at the Pinetum. We'll go there. Palm warblers, maybe we'll get lucky along the way. And we get some ruby-crowned kinglets. The males are very aggressive now, so if I play their call, it will matter.
Wait, are we still on the mat?
It's not only the birds, it's being with people. You know, this is kind of like my church, you know. And to be with people and to see birds is a lot of fun. If I do it on my own, it's not as much fun. You know, I don't care as much. But when I'm with people and I'm working with them and we're finding birds together, they're coming out to the edge of the woods and we could see a black and white warbler male and then a female is nearby, make comparisons like that. And then a rare one comes in, like today we had the Nashville warbler up above us very close. We were playing the chip calls from the tape. You know, that's what makes it all meaningful.
Mark has become like driven by birds. This is unbelievable.
New York, you know, you're usually getting robbed by somebody or knocked over. And people get along here pretty well. So I count that as one of the good things against my many sins in the world. To hear people happy, hearing ooh, ah, or saying, Bob, what's that bird? Or I want to see this. That makes it worthwhile, you know? So to hear the bird sounds in the background, to hear somebody say, I got it. It was a good day.
I've worked in construction for 27 years, and I've never felt that people feel in competition with you more than I feel men are in competition with you. I want to make a difference for relationships between men and women and women, and children and women, you know, and how we raise our kids. And to me, somehow, construction has given me a lot of those keys. I'm Rose Saez, and I am a construction worker in New York City. I work in the 5 boroughs doing labor work. I am in civil engineering, so we do bridges, roads, tunnels, asphalt, concrete, stonework. I work on scaffolds and lifts that go up to 160 feet into the air. I've worked under bridges and over water and over concrete. Being a woman in construction and then being a black person in construction in 2019. You were always the one that was not respected, bottom of the totem pole, regardless of what you brought to the table. You know, when I first came in, we were not there. They started to make laws, federal laws and state laws requiring that we be 1 out of 8 people or 1 out of 6 people, but they never really enforced those laws. Just the getting in the door part was harder for a woman. You were always the first one to lose a job, but you live with it, you work with it, you grow with it, and you keep it moving. 911 was particularly interesting as a construction worker because we weren't considered first responders. The fire department was the first one there, first responder. Without the construction workers, the firemen, the police, all the things that were being done could not have possibly been done. Between the laborers, the operators, the teamsters, we really jumped in there and did what needed to be done. Considering all the toxins in the air and everything, it was just a bad situation for even first responders. Building there, like rebuilding lives almost, because even though we were building the foundation for a building to go up, there were so many issues that really were what we were answering. It wasn't building per se. It was bringing back what we were used to. It was giving us our lives back in a way. That's how you felt when you were building there. Between my layoff periods in construction, would really enjoy acting. So I actually went into both construction and acting. I went into acting a little bit later after I had so many down periods in construction, and really realized that that was a great opportunity for me to make residual income and do something that I loved. You get out of my face! Go get David!
Yes, Mr.
Stunt work was like a no-brainer. If you could do that, and I enjoyed every single job, and every single job was different. Stuff that I do in construction is transferable to some of the things that I do in stunts. Like my expertise is ratchets, which is a high-impact pull. Like if you're in an explosion and you get shot out of a window or shot off a bridge or whatever, that's a ratchet pull. I understand the mechanics of it, where you're going to land, how to, everything about it. So I like really love it. I found a real political base for going into construction also, because there were not that many women and not that many black people in construction. And I felt like, why not me?
Didn't think about like the risk. I just thought about just getting it done. Like I didn't care at the moment. And two, I was young. Like if I were to think about it at this age that I have now, I don't think I would have done it. I think I would have waited. I'm Jerilyn Mello. I'm 35 years old from the Boogie Down Bronx. I'm a single mom of 4 beautiful kids. I'm Dominican. The Dominican women in my family, they like cosmetic surgery. They like to look good. Vanity will be something that they're into. I would say the beautiful Dominican women have a big butt, nice breasts, small waist, long hair. That's everything that they showed me while I was growing up. I think I discovered my body was different when I had my first kid. I didn't have a big butt. My breasts were always big, but I had no butt. So I'm like, oh my God, like all these, like all my cousins, they have, nice round butt. I'm the only one. Like I really need to do something about this. For like Dominican is like a big deal. I had my son when I was very young. I was 14. I remember when I went to school, back to school, they used to make fun of me. They used to call me flat butt. It's like a board. I used to go home and cry, even though, I was a mom. I was still a kid, so those things kind of hurt me. And the only thing I could think about when I grow up, when I turn 18, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, get my butt done. So that was everything that I thought of, just because of, getting like laughed at in school. I think having a big butt for me would really make a difference. One, because, I was always laughed at. And two, I know that I will feel more confident about myself, just because, not having a butt was really like something that I felt self-conscious about. So I knew that me having a butt or getting implants or whatever the case was my goal. As soon as I knew that they were like doing fat injections, like I did my research. My cousin knew this lady that she worked in Dominican Republic, but she was also working here. And I think it was like some kind of hospital where they did those type of fat transfers, but they were more expensive in the hospital. So she was like, look, I met this woman. She'll do it in her house for cheaper, but, we could go see it and see if you feel comfortable. I'm like, let's go. I didn't even think twice. I saw a couple of girls that had done it with her, and I saw the results. And I'm like, I'm ready. Like, it was illegal what she was doing, but, I didn't care at the moment. I just wanted my butt. I did the first session. I saw the difference right away. I was like, oh yeah, I'm coming back. So I kept saving money, and went back. I did it probably like 3 times. So I wasted about $3,000. And the difference, I really saw the difference. I was satisfied. Having my butt, it feels awesome. Stuff fits different, jeans, dresses, the little bump. Like, it's a different feeling. I'm not more to get attention. I'm more of feeling confident about myself. The attention is not something that that I want or that I need. I wanted to, not because I wanted to make another person happy, I never had a butt, so me having a butt, like, it's like, oh my God, I got what I wanted, I'm happy.
Just make sure I'm on here. First off, I am going to bring up each individual filmmaker, but I just want to thank yourselves for sitting through such amazing work. And once we get them all up here, we are going to give them a round of applause. You are welcome to hoot and holler for your favorite. That's totally fine, but I'm going to call each one up. And again, this is the culmination of 2 documentary filmmaking courses. So we have this course in the mornings in the spring, which is April. Applications coming soon. And then we have it again in the fall, in September, in the evening. So these are 2 separate classes, each individual making a film. So first up, I want to invite up Deborah Terry, filmmaker of Film Flex. Next, I want to invite up Anna Rabri, Back to Roots. Sorry if I butchered your name. Anywhere. Pedro Oberto, Cruelty Free Couture. Sophie Mallarette, Sane in the City. Melissa Rosati, A Vibration of Peace. Jennifer Fisher, Once Upon a Saturday. Miguel Mercado, Dancy Nancy. Randy Caban, Barretto Point Park. Morgan Minogue, The Marshall in Martial Art. Shaylin Feaster, What Will People Think? Young Park, Dr. Candido's Church. Jacqueline Kennedy, 1 out of 8. And Margaret Wiltshire, A Legal Beauty. Now, before we give everyone the big applause that they deserve, I do want to acknowledge that there are 2 instructors who really mentored and worked with these folks throughout the course of the 12 weeks. And fortunately, we do have one of them here, but I just want to acknowledge Jacob Firing, who is not here tonight, but he worked with half of the folks up here, as well as Eric Shahinian. Come on up. Give a little wave. He's done several of our documentary classes, and we're happy that he has made it tonight to really celebrate everybody. So if we could really quickly just give a quick applause to everybody, all of your work. Awesome. So I have a couple of mics here, and I am going to pass it around. We do have a question from the live stream, but we are going to take some of your questions. But before we get into it, one of the things I like to just sort of work out is, how do you feel? Like, how do you feel? It's over. Amazing. It's finally over. Oh, my goodness. So all of actually, that is really truth, because at this point, our goal is to have you continue to work on these short films, embrace that, and continue to make this work. So when we talk about that, I do want to discuss the topics, because we let you all pick your topics, and I'm just curious if anybody wants to share. How did you decide the topic that you chose? Sorry.
Hi, I'm Pedro Berto. When I started coming to Manhattan Neighborhood Network, I was thinking about having a show, my own show, that is gonna be, I'm gonna do it for 2020, Pedro in the City. So I chose to have Mark Bauer, who is here. Thank you, Mark, for doing this. And I was doing this first interview for my show, but it was supposed to be something fun, something really nice, something fresh. But if you see my face in that interview, it was like, it was going deeper and deeper and deeper, because I understood that what he was doing was really good and really current. So I said, okay, this has to be something else. I want to do something more serious, and that's how I became with this idea of doing the documentary.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, I chose Rose Saez as a stunt person. She's a stunt woman. And so I did that first. And then once I started talking to her, I realized that a woman in construction and a black woman in construction is very exciting. So I wanted to go ahead and add both of those together with Rose, because women in construction aren't obviously seen very often. So I wanted to highlight that and show her strength in that, and then also as a stunt person. So it took me a moment to put it all together, but I finally got it there.
Awesome. Anybody else?
And it just, even in a short film, I just wanted to convey some kind of just move beyond, moment of moving beyond, and then we just all wrestling with the pressure of timing, and then in just limited lengths of life, and then but how just I can condense the energy of we have, we brought originally from our mother's womb. So it's like a catching the moment of stasis and then stillness and then movement, so that we can be vitalized. So so that kind of subject is is coming from some kind of people whose vocation is about nature-related work. So Dr. Candido's church, is about that kind of searching for purity to, bring up our original power of life, life force, so that even with a, short minute, we can be, energetic, and then come back to our, just vitality. That's what I wanted to create, and then in also future, I want to keep creating that kind of moment.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, my subject, Tina, she spoke about being a Crohn's patient and having an ostomy. I'm also a Crohn's patient, and I also have an ostomy. And she mentioned giving those suffering from the disease and the condition a voice. And watching her be an advocate for such an important medical issue, it helped me find a voice also, her courage and the things that she chose to do with her experience. So it helped me, and I definitely wanted to bring to light that issue. I thought it's really important that people, to raise awareness.
Wonderful. So, go ahead.
So I did my film on Tom, and I actually took his class myself about a year ago. And after taking the class, I always wanted to make documentaries, so it was really awesome to get in. And I had another idea, but I realized my other idea was way too complicated, and I needed to focus it on just one person. And so Tom immediately came to mind because I was so impacted myself as a woman in the city after taking his class and realizing how important it is to be aware in the city, and how we can do simple things to keep ourselves safe. And I had other friends that had been impacted and are, feel vulnerable themselves and had enjoyed Tom's class. So I wanted to he does donation-based seminars, so it's essentially free, and all the proceeds go to a women's shelter in the city. So I wanted to, it was no question, it was a topic I wanted to make available and bring light to.
So, Morgan, one of the questions we got from the live stream was from Nina, and she wanted to know when and where are the self-defense classes and how can she participate?
Awesome. So good question. So Tom has a website. It's called Urban Kid Adventures. You might be thinking in your head, Urban Kid Adventures, what's that about? He also does teach a nature class in Central Park to kids in the city. So I actually had two topics to choose from, but ended up focusing in on self-defense because I think it's a really timely, important subject. So you can just visit his website and sign up for the classes. I think he does them on Sundays. He's actually here. Tom, can you confirm?
Yeah, it's usually once a month, and it's at Harmony by Karate. But they can contact me through my Urban Kid Adventures website. There's information on there.
Perfect.
So
and we'll get that
on the
link on the live stream chat as well.
Awesome.
Awesome. All right. So I just want to kind of get into the class, because that is always what a lot of folks come here to learn about, to get an idea. So I want to kind of get from your personal experiences, 12 whole, short, painful weeks. What is that like to write, produce, shoot, and somehow edit all in 12 weeks? And trust me, if you think that's a lot of time, you're not a filmmaker, because there are people who spend months working on short films. So from your perspective, like, what was that like? What were some of the challenges? Maybe you didn't have any challenges, but what was it like?
I think that it's really difficult, and sometimes you are gonna be like stressful, because when it was like, oh my God, 3 months, I have plenty time, but when you realize everything you have to do, you have to plan, you have to make this idea come true in a way that people can understand. And also, when I was checking all my footage, I have like more than 12 hours of footage, and I had to put all that in 4 minutes. So what are you putting in 4 minutes? So it's like keeping the most important things. And I think that the idea that I had is something really current. I want to take 1 second only to say that if you can go to the website for Free NYC, you can check how to help this bill to be passed, because right now it's still pending in the council, and I think that is something really nice to do, because
Free NYC.
For Free NYC.
.com. Okay, just making sure. FreeNYC.com. For free. For free NYC.com. So just make sure we all know that. We can add that link as well. Awesome. Anybody else? Yeah.
Well, first I want to thank Lois Kramer Perez, who is here in the audience, for for being such a flexible, which is the most important thing I learned from this class, subject, because I had planned the day where we were going to be outside of the celery farm, and we were going to talk about the water and the wind, and we were going to do all of these things and relate it back to the internal transformation, which is what I was really intrigued by. How could I take an internal process and try to bring it to life? But it rained, and it poured. It just didn't rain. It's like the heavens opened up, and it just poured. And the car was packed with the camera and, just all these things. And we just did it. We just did it in her house. So that just changed the whole interview, but it really taught me, someone who loves to plan and loves to have checklists and all of these things, to just let go and let it unfold and see what happens.
Awesome.
Hi, hello. Is working? Okay. Hi, my name is Miguel Mercado, the producer of Dancing Nancy. It's the story about the training specialist on parks, on city parks, Nancy Bruni, which is sitting right there. One of the most difficult things that I encountered was to really wake up early in the morning and be in the place in the park at 7:30. From weekdays, she exercises 7:30, start at 7:30 for 1 hour, and on weekend at 8:30, and then go to work. Say how she can do that. So I say, well, this is one of the best subjects I can have to see how somebody can dedicate her life, for the well-being of other people. And free. That's on the park, the city parks. So for me, it was a really challenge to grab the camera and the tripod and the sound, being ready with her. I went like 3 times. Then I went by myself for the shot of the sunset 3 times too. So in the afternoon.
So that was his actual sunset. That was no stock footage.
Yes, I did it.
So I give him credit for that. Awesome. So I do want to make sure we have time for some questions from the audience. Of course, I got a couple questions because I could sit up here all night. But does anyone have any questions, any feedback?
My mouth is big enough, but okay.
Well, we got live stream folks who want to hear you too.
Well, you said that you shot like 12 hours of footage, and you had to condense it to, how long were the documentaries? 4. Oh my God.
Yeah, we had about 15 hours of footage. Most of us did.
So how do you, okay, I guess my question is, how do you pick what's the most important, what's going to make the final cut?
Good question.
It was really difficult because his work is amazing. He made all these beautiful dresses, and for Fashion Week I have all these dresses and runways. It was so beautiful, and at some point I was like trapped in the beauty of all the beauty, and I want to put all the beautiful dresses, all the beautiful models, but then I was like, no, this has to have a meaning. That was the main idea of doing this, and I want to make a point of doing something good. So that's why I start cutting all that and adding the bill, because this is about that, about doing cruelty-free couturing, and also to see. I always thought since I was little that we have to do something for other people in order to improve this world, to make it better. And whatever I do, I just always try to do that. And with this project, that's what I try to do too. Thank you.
So with me, I had so much footage that there was this one clip that I wanted to keep. It was drone footage, and I kept it in, and Tiffany and Eric kept telling me, it's too long, you have to cut it, And I'm like, but why? It's beautiful. And there was so many things that Rose, who is actually here, thank you, Rose, very much for being my subject. Thank you very much. She has such a great story, being in construction for 27 years, what it's like to be a woman and a black woman in construction, and all the trials and tribulations she goes through with men always testing her and her strength and everything. And everything she was saying, I wanted to keep. I wanted to put everything in there. And with Eric and Tiffany being on my head, of course, I had to really, really, tone that down and everything and get it down into 4 minutes, 5 minutes. And I think mine was probably a little bit over 5 minutes. But anyway, so it was very, very difficult. But we had to go ahead and get that. Here you are.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I also think that it's a great exercise in learning to think about the audience rather than thinking about yourself, because I certainly spent, hours looking at 10 seconds that I just couldn't part with, and then realized, my gosh, it's week 9, and I've got like 30 seconds. This is not gonna, work. So really thinking about what is the audience going to see, and can I make an arc with a beginning and a middle and an end to show a process in a moment. And that meant letting go of hours and hours and little bits that I just really loved but didn't fit that arc.
Awesome. I think we have a question back there. If you yell, I'll repeat it.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to commend all of you. The most incredible, diverse subjects and topics. It was absolutely fantastic. I just truly enjoyed it.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to tell y'all were fabulous. That's all. I like it. So before we run out of time, I just want to ask this question that I ask every single panel who comes up here. If you could do one thing over again throughout the course of that 12 weeks of making your film, what would you do?
I did the Barretto Point Park in the Hunts Point section of the Bronx. So if I had to do it over again, I think I would have did a lot more work than I did. And it's difficult. You have to pick a subject, and the subject has to be available. Luckily, a friend, Roland Lopez, who's a community activist there in the downtown Bronx, let me not call it the South Bronx, but he was available and gave some historical perspective to what I try to work on. But I hope all of you get a chance to do the same. And if you love video, if you love movies, if you like to tell a story, or something is in the back of your head, this is the place to go, and this is something to try.
So when you take the class, there's essentially 3 phases. The first phase is pre-production, and then you have the production phase where you actually go out and shoot. And then you have the editing phase where you actually take everything that you thought through in the first phase and got and acquired in terms of footage in the second phase, and you decide how to put it all together. So when I was doing my film, first week, I was ready to go out and shoot. Okay, so I probably had maybe 20 hours of footage, and it was mostly Tom training his kids and the women. And it was awesome because at the end of the day, I had the chance to go through and get some really cool shots. But I would say if I had to do it over again, I would spend more time in that pre-production phase and think about what story do I really want to tell, and what story, like you said, do people really want to hear. So at the end of the day, I got there. I think that I was able to show, what the class is and provide the meaning to it. But I think it took a lot longer than it needed to.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll get to you in a second. And that's something, no matter how many times I tell folks at the very first session how quickly everything will go, how seriously you have to take this, it doesn't matter. It all goes out the window. It just goes right over everyone's head because this is literally 12 months of your life. I've had folks who are like, well, I have a job and I have kids. And I'm like, well, that's fine. Do that. But if you want to get this done, you got to do the work. And the thing to understand about the class is that most of what we do in the class is just teach. Most of what my focus is getting them to understand storytelling, because that's something that takes years to fully understand how to craft. But when you are so stuck on an idea and you're just focused on that, you don't realize all the little things that go into getting it done from beginning to end. So if this is something that you decide to do, understand that it is a real commitment. And if you want your film to turn out, well, you got to put in the time, and pretty much all that time is outside of class. Inside of the class, we're just mentoring you, teaching you as much new things as we can, but then outside of the class, you got to put in that work, so definitely.
How long after the completion of the class are you supposed to submit the project?
So the question was, how long after the completion of the class do you have to submit the film? Now, this is a tricky question. I don't need the mic. This is a tricky question because we run 2 cycles. We run a spring and we run a fall. Now, everyone who takes the class knows that technically their film is due on the last day of class. Built into the editing phases, we have a rough draft screening where we all look at their work and give some feedback. And then that following week, they are to submit a final copy. Now, I do, out of the kindness of my heart, give them an extra week to work out the kinks because post is the longest. Post-production editing is the longest period that they spend working on their film because they got 15, 20, 12 hours of footage to work through. So, you know, I will say that the folks in the spring tend to have a bit of an advantage because over the course of the month, sometimes they go back and revisit their films and they say, oh, I want to make some tweaks, and they'll submit a little bit of a revised version, although I'm not sure next year I'll be doing that. I don't know if you should have that advantage, but we will see when the spring cohort begins. So that was kind of a question for me a little bit, I guess. Yes.
I have a question. Who critiques the films as they're going through production? Like in architecture, we have all these panels of teachers. So
Yeah.
how do you do that for
So the way our classes are structured, the first 4 weeks, as Morgan said, is pre-production. Those classes meet twice a week, so it's pretty intensive, and that's when their designated instructor and myself, who acts as the mentor, will give them that feedback. So they know throughout the course of the film they can meet with me any time of the day, any day of the week. I'll come up here on a Saturday, I'd come up here on a Sunday if we were open, and we sit through and look through their work and go frame by frame, and I give them detailed feedback. Sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they implement it, sometimes they don't, and that's every single class. So it's really 2 of us who gives them constructive criticism. Their peers also will give them some feedback as well. So, yeah.
I just want to say it was excellent. I enjoyed it very much. I compliment the teachers and the great students, your topics that you picked, the execution. I learned a lot. I gotta go buy some fake fur now. Meditate and everything else. And I got a butt. No, it was really good. Everything was really great. And Rose is my sister, so I know about the great things that she's been doing for years. My question though, what other platforms will these works air on? Or where do they go from here?
So each one of these individual pieces will air on MNN's HD channel. We will also put them on our YouTube channel, so you will be able to continue to watch them as separate pieces. Every single person who's gone through our documentary course has their film on MNN's YouTube channel. So if you are curious, you want to have access, just send me an email, education@mnn.org, if you want to know more about taking the class. Like I said, the period opens up next week. I can give you all of that information. I encourage you to chat with these filmmakers, give them a high five, maybe a hug, or just a little thumbs up to let them know that we appreciate the work they did. And I just want to say, as always, I give my life to this class as much as I can. I feel bad. I'm sorry, Fall. I did a lot of traveling, way more traveling than I've ever done in anybody else's class, so I wasn't there as much as I would like to be. But you all are amazing. You finished, which is not always the case, and we've had some classes where only 3 people finish, so it's always impressive when I see 5 or more, and I think we only lost like 2 this fall, so it was really incredible. And I know we put a lot of pressure and a lot of work on you, but I just personally want to thank you. I want to thank the instructors. I want to thank everyone involved in making this happen, and I look forward to seeing the work you do, and we're definitely going to make sure that we keep helping you make films. We're always here for you, so keep coming back. You know where my office is. My door is always open. So thank you very much. Can I get one big clap? We have 1 minute left. Ask your question.
Is it your desire to be documentary filmmakers, or was this to fill time, or was it to get your message out?
To
be a filmmaker.
To be a filmmaker. All of the above.
All right, we want to thank you all for coming out tonight. We appreciate you. Please get home safe. And on the live stream, peace. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.